In this video, we're gonna take a look and analyze a cEDH gameplay, but also actually trying to showcase with this gameplay the so-called cEDH chicken race and explain it. Because what happens in this gameplay is actually quite common and it leads to a lot of wins throughout the game, so to say. And it is very good to know about this concept. So let's do a quick orientation. This player, the cEDH Rograk player, is casting Hoarding Broodlord, and yeah, with Hoarding Broodlord you win, normally, so yeah, he's gonna win here, potentially, or trying to, or put a combo into play, basically. Me, I'm sitting with the win, actually. I have a Teferi in my hand, I have a Mox Amber in play, and here I have a worldly tutor that can search and find Displacer Kitten. So if I get to go to my turn, I win the match. But I also have a Pact of Negation in my hand that I can use here right now to interact with the Hoarding Broodlord. But if I get to go to my turn with my Pact in my hand still, I can try to win the game with the Pact protection. That's very good. I just need to be able to go to my turn and not lose here to the Hoarding Broodlord first. Right up there, Pontus, the Rograk and Thrasius player, have a Force of Will and a blue Spellseeker in his hand, able to also interact with the Hoarding Broodlord. And here's a crazy thing, I actually know about that. I cast the first thing I did on turn 1, a Gitaxian Probe. And I got to see that Force of Will, so I know that Pontus has a Force of Will in his hand. So the crazy things ever, I sandbag. Sandbag means that you're holding on to your kind of interaction and pushing the priority forward, hoping basically that someone else deals with the problem. It's a little bit of a greedy play, but it tends to be able to win games. Now what happens is that Pontus also actually passed priority. And it really becomes a situation where we're sitting with interaction in our hand and passing priority on a lot of spells that the cEDH Rograk player is casting, trying to win here. He even gets too far to actually resolve on Bola Citadel. And me and Pontus still just sits there and pass on it, still having interaction for it in our hand. Eventually leading to this guy, Redrick, actually interacting with cEDH and Rograk's attempt to win by first using an Endurance, and then later, when there's an Imperial Seal on the stack with a Bola Citadel in play, he cast Boseiju to destroy the Bola Citadel. Which ultimately led to the cEDH Rograk player being interacted with. I get to go to my turn, I get to slam dunk my combo into play with Pact Protection and win the match by just being sandbagging, basically. So let's talk about and explain that. This entire situation kind of illustrates, as I mentioned in the beginning of the video, a chicken race. We are all driving our cards, like next to each other in a lane, towards our combo victory. And suddenly we notice that someone is actually getting there, and the 3 others are heading towards a cliff. And one of us have to do something, one of the 3 of us, to make all 3 of us survive for the moment. And as Magic the Gathering has this priority circle, it becomes a circle of, do you do anything? No? Do you do anything? No? How about you? And as you're staring down Death's Alley, steering towards, you're literally steering towards a cliff. I'm sitting there with interaction, I'm not doing anything, I'm gonna die soon. It just becomes like a chicken race of who is going to interact first. And eventually some people just feel that they have to. They have something and eventually they do something with it. But I was first in priority. I was supposed to be the one to actually interact, as I could have interacted. But I chose not to, because I could win, and I wanted to stare down Death's face and see if we could get someone else to do it. Which is very risky, and it could absolutely lead to a loss. Now there's one very important thing to actually talk about here. You need to have a form of skill to try and figure out if someone is actually sandbagging here. In this gameplay situation, none of them actually knew that I had a Pact of Negation in my hand. Pontus was just predicting it. But there are situations when you can actually learn about people's contents, what they have in their hand. Another such example is actually phrase use. You activate phrase use, you reveal the top, boom, that's a force of will, everyone knows you have interaction, and yeah, now everyone knows that you can interact. Having revealed information means that you're getting the burden of interaction. People can say, I know you have something, so I'm gonna pass to you, you should use it. And you can easily say, I don't have anything, and shrug. Which means that people that are trying to sandbag can take advantage of you. Which kind of happened in this situation, more or less. I had a really good argument of passing. I could pass with safety on my thought. So if you wanna combat someone like me doing this currently, sandbagging and trying to just ignore the pressure, what needs to happen is that this player and this player both together have a communication together. They need to basically reach an agreement amongst themselves together to say, we are not going to interact to this because we know you are sandbagging, or well, we predict that you're sandbagging, and we are going to lose to you interacting with our opponent here because you're gonna win on your turn, and we believe that you have protection in form of counter magic to even protect your win. So interacting here is a lose-lose situation, so we're gonna force you to interact. And you need to send that message to that player so that player knows that the gig is up, you're not gonna be able to sandbag this, we are gonna let this game end in a loss if you also just pass on everything. But you actually have to know that they are sandbagging. For example, let's pretend that that pact of negation isn't there, and I'm actually passing because I can't do anything. Let's just pretend that. Then not casting force of will here is basically wrong. You need to know that your opponent is able to do anything, because if they aren't, then you're just losing anyway, no matter what. You should probably interact in this case. This suddenly means that we're getting into a game that we're trying to read each other. We're trying to figure out what people basically have in their hand to predict the future, to try and understand the game flow of what could happen if I do X. And this could lead you to have a better win rate by understanding that, yeah, that person over there, he actually probably has an interaction. I'm gonna pass to him. And once again, in this specific game, I actually had that information on Pontus. The big takeaway from this video is basically the cEDH skills I'm trying to showcase and highlight here are the ability to communicate. Basically, getting an agreement with someone to deal with another person. If you're in a situation where someone is sandbagging, you need to communicate together to address that person, to combat that person. Basically say an ultimatum, we know you have something, we are not going to interact on this because we know that you're gonna try to win on your turn with the protection that you don't want to use at the current moment. So interacting here against this thing is basically a loss-loss scenario for us, so we're gonna force you, we're gonna put the burden on you to do it, because you are next in priority. The second skill is basically being able to, or trying to, or yeah, practice that, reading players, trying to figure out if they're sandbagging, trying to figure out if they have interaction, and if they basically don't have interaction as well. There's a lot of discussion among card choices, deck construction and such, but the ultimate truth to cEDH metagame is that you want one of your opponents to deal with another one of your opponents. That's the basic big metagame of all free-for-all games. You want someone to use their resources on another person, and you want them to fight amongst each other. Most, or yeah, close to all cEDH game, I would say, are being resolved around that factor. And this game is a very clear example of that. This person is interacting with that person, so that that person, this person, while doing nothing, could win. I hope you enjoyed this little short tutorial and that it brought you some form of value and new knowledge. This is a very important topic and an important skill to actually have with you when you enter into cEDH games or multiplayer and EDH casual games as well, actually, or all free-for-all multiplayer games, maybe I would say. Thanks for watching. I see you in the next one, guys.